have it under control.
I don't think you do.
Hi guys, this is Natasha, aka Natty Willie, and I am here to review for you a Netflix movie based on a book series by Sonan Shinani. It is called The School of Good and Evil. And the synopsis is as follows. Best friends Sophie and Agatha find themselves on opposing sides of an epic battle when they're swept away into an enchanted school where aspiring heroes and villains are trained to protect the balance between good and evil. And the title characters are played by Sophia Ann Caruso, who plays Sophie, and Sophia Wiley, who plays Agatha. I thought that's interesting that they're both named Sophia and one of the characters is named Sophie. But anywho, some of the professors that are getting played by famous actors like Charlize Theron, Kerry Washington, and of course Lawrence Fishburne. So this movie, again, is based on a book series, and did it execute? I feel like this was like a really watered down version. Yes, Soman Shinani did help write the screenplay, but do they capture the elements that I loved about the friendship between Sophie and Agatha? I think based on the time constraints, because this is a movie, it did. Was it campy? Was it messy? Was it petty? Certain parts, yes. Some parts were executed really well, especially like with the magic. And then other aspects of it was just, again, it was watered down. Like, I feel like, yes, the friendship was captured, but I feel like there were levels to their friendship that they kind of changed that I feel like is going to hurt them in the long run. Especially if they continue with the other, books or other movies. Now, granted, I am only up to book 3. I have not read the entire series so far. But based on what I know, what happens in the first book, again, I think a lot of it was watered down because of time constraints, because this is a movie and not a series. I really feel like they could have dug a little deeper or give it more depth instead of relying on the campy and messiness, and just the cheesiness of like part of what makes it fun, but relying on it a little too much when there's a little more depth to the books. Now, there are definitely some elements that I did enjoy, like of course the scene that you see a clip of that Netflix showed with Sophie, pretty much embracing her fashion and just embracing herself as someone that's evil, and the sequence of montages of her dressing up differently, trying to capture the attention of the main Everboy Tedros. And so I also like the prologue, but I also think that also hurt it by explaining it, by doing the prologue at the prologue, because it because of what happens later. It just, some of the movements of this movie, I feel like, because the world building didn't really, again, it was watered down. There was a lot of stuff that was, to me, glossed over that I feel like they could have spent a little bit more time on. And again, with my favorite scene with Sophie, there was still more depth to it, or there's a lot more stuff going on that I wish they could have, kind of explained a little bit better. But based on the limitations of the movie and the time constraints, it did what it needed to do, which was give Sophie a campiness or a pettiness to her that's part of what I love about her. And Sophia Ann Caruso definitely captured that really well, especially at the tail end, especially what happens with a ball. And again, the magic in that scene was good. Again, other parts to the movie where the magic was done was a little bit cringy for me. It's kind of like a catch-22 with me. There are parts that I definitely like, but because this movie was watered down, I feel like it kind of relies too much on campiness and messiness, and when I know that this book series has a little more depth to the characters. Now, some of the side characters, of course, Lady Lisa, Charlize Theron, I love her. The girl that plays Hester, I love her too, because Hester is one of my, as far as side characters, she's one of my favorites, as well as Lady Lesso. And her scene where she displays a certain talent, that was done really well too. That was also one of my favorite scenes. And you know, it's campy, it's messy, it's definitely one of those movies where you have to really like switch off your brain and just enjoy it for what it is. But because I know this series has a little more depth to it, it kind of sucks because I know that there's a lot more to this than what they've showed. And what they've showed so far hopefully will be enough to explore the other books. And they do combine a few characters that, again, I'm just not sure is a good idea because of the way that the characters are already, and the fact that they're likable, and the fact that they have more stuff that maybe they'll cut, unfortunately, which is why they're combining some of these characters. But at the same time, it's kind of like, well, dang, because it gives more flavor to the story, but time constraints. So I feel like this would have been better as a series, but it works for what it was trying to do, which is introduce us to this world, but again in a way that is definitely watered down and is kind of like a mixed bag as far as how they explain some things. Yes, they got some of the basics, but there's more depth to some of those basics, and because they kind of cut some scenes or didn't expound on some scenes or concepts, it kind of like makes it a little confusing and then a little more gloss. It just makes it feel like it's glossed over. So if I had to rate this movie, I would give it a 6 out of 10. Because they could have done so much more with this movie. Even Tedros's entrance was okay. It definitely reminded me, for some reason, of Harry Potter's Victor Crumb, like the way that school kind of introduced themselves. It was kind of in the similar vein, but not exactly. But and it gives us kind of like the arrogance that's kind of like on the good side. It definitely explores a little bit about the concept of good and evil, and definitely the friendship between Agatha and Sophie, which is pretty much what they were going for. But again, I feel like it was watered down enough that it works, but it doesn't work. So like and subscribe. Let us know what you think of the movie. Do you think it captured what you wanted it to capture as far as the movie, especially compared to the books? If you read the entire series, do you think I'm kind of on the nose, especially since I'm only on book 3? Like, I just feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm just, because I'm not reading the whole thing so far, I just don't have enough information. But I'm definitely not really against the cast, because I think they did do a really good job on casting. I think based on what they were given, the actors did a good job, and they kind of like embraced the campiness, which again makes the film kind of fun, but again, lack depth. So I mean, maybe it shouldn't have to have depth, but I don't know. But let me know what you think. Definitely like and subscribe. There's definitely more information or content coming from TeamJVS. The guys are killing it with all of their commentary and reviews, especially with music or film festivals and all that good stuff, and definitely TV shows that we're reviewing, like House of Dragon, and of course we just finished wrapping up Rings of Power. So there's definitely more content coming. Definitely check us out. Follow us on social media, and I'll check y'all later. Bye.